opening thoughts ahead of the Big 12 championship?
Yeah, so it's go time now. We'll get a chance Thursday to leave for Tulsa and compete, and it's always kind of jockeying for position to see where hopefully if you go to the NCAA championships and your weekend's performance as to where you will be when you get to the NCAA championships. So there's always a lot to wrestle for. We need to make it as much about fun as we can. For some reason, when you make it as much about fun, it's more fun. So we got to figure out how to do that. But we got some guys that have worked really, really hard this year, and I know they're excited about Tulsa and adding Arizona State and continuing to add teams to the Big 12 has really been good. I think we got 14-man brackets now, so you got to wrestle. It's a great kind of warm up for the NCAA tournament. Multiple days, tough guys. So I like the growth of the Big 12. Obviously, what Oklahoma State's done this year, it's a tough event. It's a really tough event. So I'll let you guys jump in.
Speaking of guys who have worked hard, one guy that's worked hard from what you said is Kyson Tirakina. We haven't seen much of him yet this year. Earlier in the season we did, but haven't lately. What's he been doing in the room?
Hopefully you'll get to see him here as soon as I leave, right? In 15 or 20 minutes or whatever. But he's been back. He's been back scrapping. We did some simulation matches this weekend on Saturday and Sunday, and he got better each match. And he started going live, in the last week, and he's done a really great job throughout the injury of just rehabbing, number one, managing his weight. So, I'm really excited. I know he's excited. He's what was he, 10-2, something like that before he got hurt. So he's had a pretty good year. It just hasn't been long enough.
For a guy who's struggled, I guess I would say, to remain mentally locked in at times in his career,
right? To
get locked in and to get knocked off course the way he got knocked off course, and you said the last time you were here that he is not once deviated from what you want. What does that say about him finally just completely getting it?
I think it's maturity. I think, I see a different guy, a lot more mature. He's been to the NCAA tournament, 2 times already, 3 times. So he's starting to really, really get it. We sure would have liked to have had a few more reps in the last 2 months, obviously. So he needs to get that first. I'm glad he got a first match in the bracket. So he needs to get some matches under his belt. And I think the more matches he gets, the more we're going to see the best guy. But sometimes just being fresh, mentally fresh, going into this tournament is a good thing, and he should be mentally fresh.
What's been your favorite part of this season so far, regardless of all the injuries and everything that's happened, kind of shaking up the lineup?
My favorite part of the season, probably just seeing guys get a chance that probably wouldn't have got a chance. I mean, that's the silver lining. I've said it before in here, is look at Jacob Frost taking advantage of the opportunity he's got. He's ranked in the top 6 or 7 in the nation. Who knows if he would have been the guy? I don't want to shortchange him or sell him short, but he's pretty darn tough, and he's really got a chance to get in there. Daniel Herrera is another guy that Iowa State would have never seen this year if it wasn't for Younger's injury. I think there's 2 instances right there and that's a good question of a silver lining of a year that, think about it. We're going into the Big 12s and we're not bringing 2 defending Big 12 champs and a 3rd place guy. That's tough. That's tough to overcome. But we're going to give her hell, as they say.
What's it going to take for some of your guys who are going to have to outperform their seed to qualify for the tournament?
Well, pressure. Is a lot of. There's a lot of ways to interpret pressure. I think that you have we got 40 guys on our roster, and only 10 of them going to go way in. So there's some privileges there, getting to get on that airplane to go to Tulsa on Thursday. There's some privileges there, and so you can look at, oh man, I got to wrestle to get in the NCAA tournament, or you can look at, like, I must be pretty cool. I'm on that plane, I'm going. So they must trust in me, and I must have done a pretty good job this year. So I think that's the best way to interpret it, is be gracious for the opportunity that you got, and hopefully we got 10 guys that think like that.
What kind of spot do you feel like Panero is in at this point?
Panero always thinks he can win. He probably needs to analyze a little less and just go out and let it fly and get after guys. And I think when he does that, he does really, really well. I think it's human nature a little bit when you're young, and he sat out a whole year, so he's kind of starting all over this year, is to maybe doubt your shape a little bit. You know, he obviously he got in that UNI situation, he got in a really, really big moment and backtracked a little bit. But for the most part, that's really the only hiccup he's had all year. He's had a really good year. And so he caught fire 2 years ago at the Big 12 and really had a good run. So I'm excited to see, and I know he's excited. Like, I know he's really looking, you can read your athletes and see which guys are really ready to go. And I can tell he's really excited.
How have you seen Cody Chittum respond to the Missouri loss?
Great. He had a great simulation weekend. We needed to make some changes. Cody thought he knew how to make weight, and he found out he didn't. And so now he's doing it our way, but he wasn't doing a good job with his weight the whole month of February. Didn't manage his weight the right way, wasn't following the rules, was taking shortcuts, and it showed up. And so that could really be a blessing in disguise. But he, the simulations we went through this past weekend on Saturday and Sunday, he really felt good. And he even came out and goes, man, I felt so good. So let's hope he can remember that.
We've seen a different mentality from Evan Frost coming. Last year was kind of the number 2 seed behind Dayton Fix. This year he's the top dog, in his bracket. Have you seen kind of a different mindset from him?
No, those Frost guys, they don't say a whole lot, so it's hard to read those guys. I mean, that's probably what makes them good is, you don't see them get too high or too low ever. I'm hoping he's going in there with some swagger that, I'm ranked 3rd in the nation right now, so let's go. And I think he will, but, he's had a wonderful year for us.
We've talked, of course, all season about all the guys lost, starters lost injury, but how healthy is the lineup in terms of who you've got? Thinking of the Gaitans, Rockman at times. I mean, how good is the general health?
And that's kind of going to be my message to our guys today, kind of a last reminder. Like, you're going into the postseason. It's been a long season for everybody. I can guarantee you that, not every Oklahoma State guy is going to feel perfect. Not every UNI guy is going to feel perfect. Not every Arizona State guy is going to feel perfect. And guess what? Not every Iowa State guy is going to feel perfect. So if you think you're going to go there and you're going to feel perfect all weekend, well, you're darn blessed if you're going to feel like you're darn blessed. Something's going to hurt. You're going to have to overcome something. You're going to have to suck it up. It's going to have to happen in Tulsa. It's going to have to happen in Philadelphia. So put your big boy pants on and let's go.
What does MJ Gaitan need to do to, earn an NCAA bid, but also get back to the wrestler that we saw a lot last year?
Well, I think his evolution in progress has been interesting because he came in and nobody knew much about him, and he surprised a lot of people because he's super dangerous and is rolling around and his ability to pin. Well, what happens is now all of a sudden there's a lot of individuals out there that are called coaches, and they're pretty good, all right? So you give them a lot of video to watch, and they start to figure MJ out, like if I do this and don't do this and don't do that. So MJ has to make adjustments. So, when MJ knows, we don't want to take the funk away from him, but when the basics of just basically squaring your hips, get into a single leg, get into a high crotch, when he can execute all those things with all the other tools he's got, he's gonna really, really wrestle well. And we've seen that at times. He's just got to get the consistency to do that, And so again, you're talking about somewhat a fairly young guy, but we need to make those adjustments, this weekend, and we need to make them in Philadelphia because he's a guy that's not a great draw if you're looking, you're somebody down the road. Like, he's not a great draw to get.
Looking at Evan and Jacob, they'll have the opportunity to go into the tournament together competing. How have you really seen them kind of, separate themselves from each other since they're always together, but how have you seen them, adjust to now you got to focus on yourself?
They do a pretty good job of, I think that since they both are this year in the lineup and they're both really having to be disciplined with their weight and their diet and their nutrition, I think they've got a built-in training partner. So probably closer this year than they were last year because Jacob was hurt and Evan was the guy. So I think that's been good. I think they feed off each other really well. I remember last year in a wrestle-off situation, I think Evan and Grice wrestled in the finals, and Grice was kind of favored and Evan won. And then right afterwards, Redding and Jacob wrestled, and I think Redding was favored and Jacob won. So they seem to feed off each other, and maybe it's a competition. They don't ever fuss and fight. I've never seen them fuss and fight, which is unusual for brothers. So maybe that's their fussing and fighting is they just compete. Like, hey, I'm gonna go win.
What's the biggest, quality of their progression that you've seen so far this season?
I think they've done a better job. For the most part, they've done a better job at feeling good, and because they're both, pulling some weight and doing the last 48 hours or maybe the last 72 hours really well. Is there really, because you can do everything right and train all spring and all summer and all fall right, but if you screw up the last 72 hours, that's really critical. And having the discipline to keep your weight where you need to keep it and all that kind of stuff has been their Achilles heel a little bit. So the last month I've seen them do really good with that.
What was it like being the Grand Marshal at one of the three at the march, leading the march?
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Yep, that was fun. When they said go, I didn't know it was going to be like a sprint. I thought it was supposed to be a walk. Like you're supposed to show these guys off.
Yeah.
But, I think Coach Brands, wanted to beat Coach Schwab because Coach Schwab's probably been talking smack about him. And so, I just took off and I tried to keep the wrestlers with me because if it wouldn't have been for me, the wrestlers probably wouldn't even been able to see us. We'd all been left in the dust. So I actually think I saved the day. I think I saved the event. So
I was going to say,
it was
with those
fun.
two rascals going after each other, you got to be, just like, you got to be the leader.
Yeah, all of us go way back.
Yeah.
All of us go way back. I was really involved in the recruiting process of Coach Brands and the Brands brothers back when I was, I guess, a GA for a better term at Iowa. So, and then, knew Schwab's oldest brother was my age. So, and I've known those guys a long time, and they're both doing great jobs. They really are.
Thanks, Coach.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Tim.
See y'all.